one of the worst Manchester derbies from an entertainment and quality perspective. City had so many issues against United, both on ball and off ball. The purpose of today's video is to look at the derby through a City lens and try to dissect what went wrong for City. These are not the lineups. Well, this is how United lined up, and this is how I thought City might line up given the team sheet that came out. City often play in either a 4-4-2 or a 4-1-4-1 off ball. It's just what City have been doing consistently for the past few years. Not in the derby, however. It was instead a 4-3-3 with De Bruyne as the most central player off ball, out of possession, Foden and Marmoush as the wide players, and that left an incredibly old, unathletic, non-physical midfield trio of Bernardo, Kovacic and Gundogan. And on that note, let's maybe talk about the off-ball issues, shall we? Before we do that though, I did think from a United perspective, Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro in particular had very good games. United definitely edged it and they probably should have won the match but for their lacklustre finishing. This is Manchester City's 4-3-3. Again, Marmoush, De Bruyne, Foden, that front three with the midfield with the same, running power of a legless mule in the centre there. Now, City were incredibly aggressive in terms of their out-of-possession approach and their press, particularly in the opening exchanges. The front three clearly instructed to press incredibly high, the midfield as well to join them. The full-backs, again, expected to push high. This all is incredibly good in theory, but if you don't have a midfield capable of doing that from a physicality perspective, in terms of getting back as well and helping out the defence, you are asking for trouble. It worked for the first 10-15 minutes when United tried to play out from the back. When United realised all they had to do was play over the top, then City could not deal with it. Nico O'Reilly's pointing to Bruno Fernandes here saying he's in so much space if one ball is floated over, 6 City players are bypassed, and that's exactly what happens. And with just a few simple passes, this leads to this situation. Thankfully, Bernardo Silva was able to track back into the right back position, and he did that a number of times. Gundogan was less effective at tracking back, and Nico O'Reilly was put into so many dangerous, unfair positions continually throughout the match. This is maybe one of the better examples just to illustrate the problem I had with the narrow 4-3-3 versus Manchester United's natural wide shape and system. I can understand the concept and the principle, hypothetically, of you want to commit 3 forward bodies to the press instead of 2 in a 4-4-2, just to have an extra body to put more pressure on United. That's fine in theory, but what it does mean is that when all these players are pushed forwards, even if you're in a settled defensive midfield shape, due to United's natural width, there is so much defensive responsibility and tracking burden on your widest central midfielders. Bernardo Silva was able to do that throughout. Again, as I touched on it, Gundogan wasn't able to do that. So Dalot had a field day, really. Here's one such example where the ball comes to Dalot and just few basic passes, because City have committed so many bodies forwards, but for Bernardo getting back into basically right back, he's able to put off Dorgu a little bit here. He gets the shot horrendously wrong. It's a ball over the top. It's nice link-up play with Bruno Fernandes, but it's just a couple of simple passes. Once again, Bernardo Silva forced to go to right back in the end and try to put off the United player. I didn't understand why we were opted for such a narrow shape off ball. Here, Dorgu is offside, so you could say, well, it's meaningless. If Dorgu's just able to hold his line here, then Bruno Fernandes, with one switch, has just created an overload down City's right. That was a massive concern throughout the match, and I just could not figure out for the life of me why Pep opted to do this. This was a choice by Guardiola. We don't play 4-3-3 out of possession, or rather we haven't done for years on a consistent basis. He changed it for the derby, and it just seemed to go totally in favour of United's naturally wide shape. And that was only off-ball. Let's talk about on-ball now, shall we? So if this was how City set up off-ball, on-ball, it was a little bit fluid going forwards, but in general, the shape was something like this, where you had Diaz and Guardiola as the 2 centre-backs, Bernardo, Kovacic, Gundogan stayed as that midfield 3, Nico O'Reilly and Núñez, in theory, pushed further forward to allow De Bruyne and Marmoush to be a bit more central, with Marmoush technically being the furthest player forward throughout the majority of the game. Again, there was some rotation. This is the general in-possession shape. Now, you'll notice that, I mean, first of all, City have 2 defenders on the pitch, which is interesting, but you'll also note that our width is coming from Nico O'Reilly, who is a midfielder, and Núñez, who is a midfielder who can do a job at right back, obviously. There is no true natural offensive width with the setup that Pep went for. Notably, there was no Doku or Savio on the pitch. That isn't inherently an error or a mistake by Pep, so long as the impetus and focus is on getting the ball quickly into the pockets for our central players, Foden, Marmoush and Kevin De Bruyne. That has to be what happens if you are sacrificing any natural width. That didn't happen. This is the passing network from the game for City. Marmoush, De Bruyne, Foden, hopelessly isolated. They had no chance to do anything, basically, in that game, but for United errors. I counted in that first half, our front 3, our attacking 3, Foden, De Bruyne, Marmoush, were found by our midfield 3, Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, Kovacic, just 9 times in that match. Foden 5, De Bruyne 3, Marmoush 1. That is simply not good enough in respect of a quantity perspective. And we haven't even touched on the quality. 5 of those 9 were not even really good enough from a quality perspective either. If you don't start someone like Nico Gonzalez, who does have that in his arsenal, he can play it into those pockets. Not as good as a Rodri, but certainly better than Bernardo, than Kovacic, than Gundogan now in 2025. There was no hope of ever connecting the midfield to the attack if we are relying on that midfield trio to be that bridge. The bridge did not exist, quite simply. This ball into Foden, he's under so much pressure, has to play it back immediately. This ball by Gundogan to Marmoush, it's a nothing ball. This ball by Gundogan to Foden, they're on top of each other, they're on top of each other, they're on top of each other. So already 5 of those 9 are just meaningless. We'll get into the 4 which did work, but ultimately, why couldn't they do this? Well, again, it's because these players can't do the job that's being asked of them. Here is one example, I'll get into another one in a moment. Foden makes the run, okay? It is not a mistake that Kovacic does not go to find the run. It's not necessarily an error. What happens here, however, is an error. The run hasn't been found, but the run wasn't meaningless. It wasn't for nothing. Foden's created space for Marmoush, but most notably for Kevin De Bruyne. De Bruyne, if he receives the ball in this sort of area, he's going to have time and space to turn to perhaps link up with Núñez or play in the ball for Foden or Marmoush. The ball finds its way to Bernardo Silva, and here, this has to happen. That's quite simple. That's quite straightforward. Foden's made the space for De Bruyne with his run. Bernardo, instead of immediately passing the ball, waits 4 seconds. And he ends up passing it out wide. The opportunity has gone. The space has disappeared. Bernardo Silva this time on the ball. Kevin De Bruyne is making the run. Realises he's not going to get it. Drops deep. There are options here for Bernardo. And does he pick any of them? No. Again, he dillies and he dallies and he plays it out wide to Nico O'Reilly instead. The safe pass, the easy pass, the borderline coward's pass, if you will. Maybe that's a little bit harsh. But in a game like this, you need someone to be able to fire the ball quickly into our attackers in the correct moment as well. That is the key, knowing when to do it as well. Kovacic. A pass by Kovacic is going to be a lot faster than a carry by Kovacic. United have given City the ball here for free. Play that ball quickly into Gundogan. He'll have the space to turn. United's defence are backpedaling because Foden again is making that run behind. So Gundogan has a little bit of space to work with here. If Kovacic quickly passes the ball into him after you've regained possession, he waits 2 seconds. He brings the ball forward via the carry. The opportunity is gone. There is less space for Gundogan. He feels the need to try to play a little flick first time. City lose the ball. All Kovacic had to do there was act faster and pass it rather than carry it forwards. Kovacic again, sounds like I'm having a go. I promise I'm not. It's not necessarily his fault. It's more on Pep for starting him over someone like Nico. This is not a hard pass though. You could even play it quickly to De Bruyne. This was another instance where United gave City the ball for free. And instead it just goes horrendously out of play. It's a really bad pass. The 4 instances where our midfield did find the attackers, and this is where we can blame the attackers because they receive the ball in maybe more of a dangerous area. Kovacic here does the right thing on a turnover of possession. He finds Foden. Foden brings the ball forwards, waits for De Bruyne to get into the right position. De Bruyne sadly does not hold his run. He's offside. Bernardo Silva slides it into De Bruyne, slips him in. De Bruyne gets his shot off. The shot's not necessarily good enough, but at least it is a shot. Gundogan this time into De Bruyne. De Bruyne does not get the pass right to Foden, who makes the run behind. There's too much on it, but you are seeing what happens if we actually try to give our attackers a chance to do something. This is maybe his best pass of the entire game. He is brave here. He breaks the lines. He finds Kevin De Bruyne, who turns. He makes the wrong decision here. He tries to scoop it into Marmoush. The play would have been to simply slip Foden in there on that right side, but we can at least see here some sort of attacking development and progress. But notice how few chances there are. The ones I've shown you are all of the examples from that first half. There is no, here's an example of this and that. No. This is the entire sample size from that first half. It was simply not enough, not good enough. For me, two of our best chances didn't even come from the midfielders finding the attackers. It came from Ruben Diaz finding the attackers. This one is a hoof upfield. Foden takes it out of the air, lays it off for De Bruyne. I can't excuse De Bruyne here. This for him is his bread and butter. Should be sliding through Marmoush there, not able to get the pass off. The connection is all wrong. The angle and the amount of power is not enough. Dalot intercepts easily. This is the best chance by a fair margin. Once again, it is Diaz who plays it into Foden. Foden lays it off first time to Gundogan. Notice how Maguire has been dragged out. That must mean that there is space to attack behind United's back line. Gundogan finds Nico O'Reilly. What O'Reilly does here is what Bernardo, Kova, Gundo should have been doing throughout the entire game. He just takes a couple of touches, I think it's 2 exactly, and pings it to Marmoush. This is a straightforward, simple pass into Marmoush, who's created some space for himself, but it's effective. It does the job. Okay, City do get fortunate here. Marmoush is tackled, but at least City are in the right area, and Foden, of course, needs to do so much better with this opportunity. But the fact that this was really the only chance of the game, the only true chance of the game, tells you everything you need to know. And I hope you enjoyed watching this chance, because that was it. That was your lot. No other opportunities were created by City following this point outside of a pop shot by Marmoush following a corner. You can expect to miss a couple of chances in a game. The reality is that, yes, Foden should have done so much better, but we are talking about a chance. We are not talking about missing a hat-trick of decent chances. We are talking about one true opportunity being created. And I don't know how much I can blame the attackers here when they simply were not getting the ball quickly enough or in the correct places by the players supposed to be supplying them. With no natural width, with no Savio or Doku in the side, it was imperative that we played to the strengths of our central attackers to try to break through United's block. And we just did not do that, and we played into United's hands continually, just going around the block, side to side, side to side, zero penetration when it actually matters. Foden went off, apparently due to an injury. Hopefully he's okay. Grealish came on later in the game, and I questioned the subs as well. Of course, there is no Nico, but I have no idea why Grealish is coming on when City needs a goal. Grealish scored against Leicester, and that is lovely, but he is not a goal scorer. He does not take enough shots, and that brings us on to an issue for the remainder of this season. If Haaland is out, it does not matter that Foden is out of form right now. I would love to rest Foden, but I do not know if we have that luxury. What we need to do is get our shooters on the pitch. I need Savio, I need Foden. If we're going to play Guardiola, we might need to take him away from centre-back and put him back into left-back so he can push higher up the pitch. It was a really bad display by City, not helped by Pep Guardiola's team selection, not helped by the subs or lack of subs, maybe not in my view the correct subs. I just don't see why, if you are playing a 4-3-3, let's say that's our starting point. Gundogan was offering zero athleticism or physicality or defensive work or duel winning work. Why can't one of De Bruyne or Foden play there? Little bit deeper. So then we've actually got an offensive player there who actually will want to find players ahead of them. You could even get rid of De Bruyne from the starting 11. We've seen that he's leaving at the end of the season. The derby sadly illustrated there is a good reason for that. And now all of a sudden, you can play Savio and you can play Doku. And it's the exact same shape in respect to the 4-3-3. You can't, and obviously, you know, ideally bring on Nico for someone like Kovacic. If you do that, you have Nico here, you have Savio here, you have Doku there. You have shooters on the pitch, you have more goal scorers on the pitch, you have a more physical midfield with Nico coming in, you have a quicker midfield with Nico and Foden coming in, and you have a more offensively minded midfield as well. You have players in Foden and Nico who will want to connect to those more advanced players. I'm very disappointed in the performance, very disappointed in Pep. Still haven't got my head round why we went 4-3-3, why those subs happened or rather didn't happen. And again, United probably on the balance of play deserved to win the match. Really hope you guys somehow were able to enjoy this video if you didn't enjoy the game. Thanks so much for watching. Apologies for the lack of analysis videos in recent weeks. Hopefully they are going to be more consistent now. Really hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys next time.